Hello and welcome to another episode of Laborvision, brought to you by your friends at KDHX, Community Television for St. Louis and beyond. I'm your host, John Hickey, and on today's episode, we look at the crisis in American manufacturing. We're losing jobs in auto, steel, electronics, you name it. The question is, what can we do to save manufacturing in this country? We have three great guests who are in the front lines of that fight. Let me introduce them to you. First, Gene Cobb, president of the UAW local at ABB Manufacturing outside of Jefferson City.
Correct.
Jeff Raines, retired steelworker from the Granite City Steel plant and now field coordinator for the Alliance for American Manufacturing.
Right. Thanks for having us on, John.
And then Ben Harman from UAW Local 110, which was at the Chrysler plant, and you were the head of the Community Action Program there?
That's correct, John.
Okay, great. So let me actually start with you, Ben. How many people used to work at the Chrysler plant between the two plants there, say, I don't know, a couple years ago?
Well, John, you just mentioned I was 110. I'm actually in 136 now because of that change. I was in 110. We built the minivans there, and they went down first and with about approximately 3,200 employees. And recently the idling of the truck plant puts us up to about 6,000 auto workers in the Fenton area out of work. But, you know, Missouri economists say for every auto worker we create here in Missouri about 5.3 jobs. So when you multiply those numbers, you come up with about 30,000 workers related to those Fenton auto plants that are going to be out of work.
And by related jobs, that could be the people who worked in the supply factories that were sending parts there, to people who ran retail establishments nearby that catered to people who worked at the plant, et cetera.
Correct. And even, you know, our employees patronize the local gas stations, the restaurants, you know, you include those numbers as well that, you know, fall into that figure.
Well, that's stark. And we're going to take a short break to hear a message from our friends at Families USA, but keep that in mind, 30,000 jobs lost as a result of the Chrysler plant shutting. That's the scale of what we're talking about here. And we'll be back after the break to talk more.
At a time when American businesses are hurting, why should we worry about fixing healthcare? Because quality, affordable healthcare can save money and make businesses more competitive, so they can invest in innovation, hire back workers, create jobs, get the economy working again for everyone. Quality, affordable healthcare. It's not just something we should do for America's families. It's something we must do for America's economy.
Welcome back to Laborvision. On today's episode, we're asking what can be done to save manufacturing here in the United States. And we just heard from Ben about the terrible impact of the shutdown at Chrysler. Jeff, you also have an interesting story there from Granite City about steel pipe that's being laid there on the east side to the Wood River refinery. Tell us about that story.
Right. Well, for the first time in 130 years, the Granite City facility, which employs over 2,000 people, has been completely shut down. Well,
stop it. That's the first time that's happened in how long?
130 years.
Wow.
Well, I mean, it's been a very efficient plant for as long as we can imagine, you know. And actually, we're tied at the hip to the auto industry, and when they hurt, we hurt, so we're shut down. Well, recently, as I was going to a union meeting, was stopped by a train load of huge pipe, and upon further inspection, I found that it was produced in India. That was the port of call, and we could have made that steel. We worked hand in hand with ConocoPhillips to help them obtain the waivers. They were with the help of the Sierra Club to get that pipeline, and we were very disappointed that they chose to use Indian steel. I mean, the reason I'm upset, I retired from that facility. My older brother retired from that facility. My younger brother still works at that facility, although he's laid off. We did make get the public's recognition of what they're doing. So in the future, when they make these pipelines, hopefully they'll consider Granite City as the provider of that steel. What ConocoPhillips told us was at the time that they awarded those contracts, the United States steel industry was at capacity and we couldn't supply the steel they needed. Well, the truth of the matter is we'd lost so much steel making capacity due to unfair trade, we weren't able to provide that. Had we enforced our trade laws back in the 1990s and in 2000, those facilities would have been there and we could have supplied that steel.
So let me understand this picture. You're walking in the neighborhood of the Granite City Steel plant that shut 2,000 people out of work, and there's a long railroad train full of pipe made from India that's being put into the ground right there in Metro East to run oil to Wood River.
It's going to be running from Alberta, Canada, down to, I believe it's going to Y somewhere close to the Nebraska border and go to Kansas City to the west and come to Wood River, the ConocoPhillips refinery, and go to Patoka, Illinois. And like I said, we upgraded our coilers so that we could produce that steel. We could run that grade of steel that they use for that pipe.
Wow. And the steelworkers as a union help ConocoPhillips get the permission to be able to run this
right.
pipeline.
The steelworkers were working hand in hand with the Sierra Club to make sure that we got those jobs. And those are good manufacturing jobs, and we appreciate that. But we would have appreciated it much more had they used American steel in that project.
Sure, sure. And so there's two examples of the problems we're facing with the Chrysler plant being shut, the Granite City plant being temporarily shut. Gene, it's time for a little bit of good news. Can you tell us about how investments in clean energy are supporting jobs at the ABB plant in Jefferson City?
Well, John, last April, Vice President Biden was in our plant at ABB in Jefferson City, and he spoke to us about clean energy and building wind farms in northeastern Missouri, and gave us a lot of hope on jobs for the future. We have had a few layoffs, but the clean energy has really helped keep our layoffs to a minimum. It kept our numbers way down, so far anyway, and hopefully it will continue that way.
And what part of the windmill do y'all build there at ABB?
We begin to build the transformers part. The turbines, the blades turn the turbines, and the turbines go down to the transformers, and they step up or step down electricity whichever way it needs to go. Normally it'd be stepped down from the turbines.
So when these new wind farms are put into place in northern Missouri, the transformers are the transformers you all are assembling there at the ABB plant?
That's correct. And it comes directly from the stimulus money that President Obama has allotted for that. So it's a big plus for us.
And looking at it in the scale of what y'all make at that plant, is it a big part of the overall production that you're doing currently?
Well, right now, because of the housing and other industries, our three-phase and single-phase transformers are down a little bit. So it's a big part of our business right at the moment. And I think it'll continue to grow as a big part of our business. Hopefully it'll get to be half our business or more with all the new wind farms that's being built.
Yeah, and I know I just read a report in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch in the last day or two about the growth in clean energy jobs is one of the areas of manufacturing where there's an opportunity to expand. And correct me if I'm wrong, but until recently, most of those wind turbine or the windmill parts were actually made in Europe, right?
The majority of them were. There's some companies, and I can't remember who they are right at the moment, have started making the turbines in the United States. And we've been making the transformers actually for a few years now, shipping them to California here, there, and yonder, south into the Dakotas. But It's pretty much Missouri now, and hopefully it'll stay there. We need in Missouri.